this week on Twitter, a follower of mine asked if I wouldn't mind doing a video on how to stop overthinking. My first thought, of course, was, well, sure, I wouldn't mind, but geez, can someone first tell me how to stop? But then I took to the internet and I did some research. And what I found, apart from some kind of bogus and new age ideas that I don't subscribe to personally, was a couple of basic, good old-fashioned horse sense ideas on how to stop overthinking. Things that I personally have been doing for 43 years, whether I'd slapped a label on it or not. So I figured what better place to share it with you guys than Self-Care Sundays. I'm Linda. This is Linda's World. This is Self-Care Sundays. And this is Stop Overthinking Right Now. Before I tell you my advice about overthinking, it would behoove you to know whether or not you are in fact an overthinker, right? So I'm about to give you a little 4-question quiz. Every single answer will be a yes or a no. So run and get a pen and piece of paper, or open the notes section of your phone, or just quite frankly, remember your answers, because like I said, there are only 4 questions and 4 yes or no's. Are you ready? Okay then. Question number 1. Even though you may be physically tired at night, do you still find it difficult to sleep because your mind doesn't shut off the same way as your body does? Okay then. Question number 2. If you have to place a phone call to a business or a home or anything that you rarely, if ever, call, do you first rehearse what you're going to say in your head before you dial that number? Okay then. Number 3. If you enter a room that is full of commotion and that commotion dies down when you enter it, do you assume that the people in that room have been speaking negatively about you? And finally, number 4. If you reach out to someone via text or email or any kind of message and they do not respond to you, but you can tell via social media that that person has in fact been online, do you get personally offended? Okay, so obviously I think you see where I'm going with this. The more questions you answered yes to, you might in fact be an overthinker. You know how I know? Because I answered yes to all 4 of those questions. So like I said in my intro, I overthink. And so I thought, well, who the hell am I to make this video? But then I said, well, Linda, you have methods of coping with your various anxieties, so why not share them with the public? So here we are, right? Now, overthinking is akin to anxiety. And for the last, I don't know how many years, such a social stigma has been placed on anxiety and people feel ashamed. I was most recently watching Nikki and Gabby Take the Bahamas, and Nikki had anxiety about being in open water on a boat, and people were really not being all that kind to her in her anxiety, and she was crying, and she was like, stop making jokes, it's not funny. And afterwards, Nikki put out like a little disclaimer, online about how anxiety shaming has got to stop. And I, for one, said bravo, Nikki DeMar, because, it's only natural as a human being to have certain worries, and it just so happens that certain people have more worries than others, or worry more deeply than others, and that in itself is generalized anxiety disorder. Now, I don't want to rush to diagnose anybody here, first and foremost. I would like to say, personally, that I suffer from 4 specific mental disorders, and so I don't want to visit my disorders onto you. By saying you're an overthinker, I'm not trying to call you mentally ill in any way, shape, or form. I just know that I am, And so basically what I'm saying is common people can overthink too, just straight regular people in the world. And of course it's also akin to situations. Very often a person might have a day where nothing major happens and they go to bed and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But there are days when stuff happens, there are unexpected bills, there are IRS situations, like adulting is in my head today. There are people that we have conflict with. There are professional situations that we don't like. There are marital situations we don't like. There are familial situations that we don't like. And so those fights that we had with our cousin, or those disagreements we had with our boss, or those negative bank balances can eat away at like even the strongest of animals, you know what I mean, and cause us to start overthinking. So now that I've described the concept of overthinking, and I guess people are saying, well, Linda, don't over-describe overthinking. Well, then I guess I better get to my tips, right? Okay, now there are 4 specific things that I've been able to line up in my own personal life that help me to get past the hump of overthinking. Now, I'm not going to stand here and say that I'm perfect at this at all. Okay, I am a huge overthinker and I have to really remind myself of these 4 things when I do it. But nevertheless, when I do it and commit myself to doing it, it usually helps. Okay? So now that we've had 4 questions about overthinking, now here's 4 tips to stop. Okay. Tip number 1. You want to focus on 2 specific words in the English language and determine whether your worry falls into one category or the other. One of these words is the possible, and the other is the probable. Now, there's a difference between the two. Possible. It is entirely possible that I could walk outside of my house an hour from now and get run over by a bus. That is entirely possible. Is it probable based on where I'm going today? Absolutely not. Okay? So it's like that. When you have a situation, when you have a worry, and you are thinking yourself to death about it, you have to determine, you sit down and you say, is this possible or is this probable? Now, of course, it's like, I always like to use the old adage that all jacuzzis are hot tubs, but not all hot tubs are jacuzzis, So of course anything is possible, but does it fall under the heading of probable? Based on past events you've seen, is the thing you're worried about gonna happen? And so when you put it into the possible or probable category, there you have your answer. And I'm sorry if I'm a little fidgety, but I had to turn off my AC in order to make this video, and I'm hot as hell in my bedroom. I didn't think you wanted that kind of background noise. So possible and probable really works. It's an exercise. And if you can't really visualize it in your head, I suggest you get out a piece of paper, or like open up a blank section in your phone. Just get a blank canvas or something where you can write down possible, probable, and list your worries and put them into those 2 camps, and say, well, can this happen? Yes. Do you think this is definitely going to happen? Yes or no, or whatever, okay? And really do the weigh. A lot of people weigh pros and cons in a situation. Well, that has its place, but I'm asking you to weigh possible versus probable. Is it possible that I am going to one day be walking down Madison Avenue and run into a celebrity? Sure. Is it probable? No. Because I don't go down Madison Avenue a whole lot, and also I have terrible luck at meeting celebrities, Now, of course, I'm describing a positive thing, but I think you see what I'm getting at here with possible and probable. And if you do, then I'd like to move on to thing number 2. Okay. Thing number 2 is not rocket science. You know what it's called? Distraction. Yeah. Seriously. You would be amazed at how simply absorbing yourself into something else distracting can influence your anxiety. Now, when I say this, I'm going to speak specifically of media, because something that distracts me personally is absorbing myself into a completely other world apart from me that is fictional, that takes place on television or, something of the sort. I throw myself into an old sitcom. I throw myself into a Netflix series. I put on my TV and I bombard myself with images and audio of people that aren't me, doing other stuff that I don't do, that couldn't be further from my life if it tried. And I really try to focus on the program, anyone who has ever met me knows my affinity for Grace and Frankie. And if you haven't seen it, Netflix, 6 seasons, it's redunculous. Just watch it. It's awesome. And I go in there and I'm in it. And I'm like, you're not thinking about Linda's problem. You're thinking about Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin being 80 years old and living in a San Diego beach house with 2 gay ex-husbands. That's the premise of the program. So I'm not thinking about my banking snafu. I'm not thinking about my boss. I'm not thinking about whether or not my dog needs to go to the vet. Whatever overthinking thing I'm thinking about, I'm focused on Grace and Frankie in La Jolla. And that really does the trick, And a little bit of a disclaimer here as far as media and distraction. I don't know what your personal proclivities are. I don't know if your tastes are more drama, horror, like game, whatever. Everyone has different tastes. I'm a huge comedy enthusiast. And so the reason I'm a huge proponent of comedy for this distraction is because comedy is far-fetched often. And comedy is lighthearted and meant to entertain. It's not really meant to make you think a lot. I mean, certain satirical political comedy is, of course, SNL and whatever. But you're supposed to get absorbed into funny land. And if you're laughing at someone else's ridiculous premise on your TV screen or your computer screen or whatever, you aren't thinking about that thing that could possibly happen and ruin you, you know, or that terrible thing you said that you wish you could take back, or whatever it is that you're overthinking, you know. And that's why number 2 is distraction. Okay. Number 3 is a bit far-fetched, okay? But it is an exercise that requires you to have, again, a piece of paper or a blank section in your phone or something, because you're going to write stuff down in this. This one I like to call anxiety Tinder, okay? You know, like how you're on Tinder? I mean, I'm not personally on Tinder, but I understand that people swipe right or left, you know? Or Bumble is the same thing. You swipe right or left on the people's images that you like to date. Well, what you want to do is you want to put your worries down. You want to list them. You want to get out a piece of loose leaf paper or whatever, however you do it, your notes in your phone, it doesn't matter, okay? And your diary book, whatever. And you want to write literally physically down everything you're worried about. And now you're going to take your finger and you're going to literally swipe, okay? It's going to happen. Pick your sides. Doesn't matter. But, you know, but yes or no, you know, design it however you want. And just literally take your finger and read what you wrote and go, yes, I think that's kind of happen. No, that seems ridiculous. Yes, it's probably going to happen. No, I think it's ridiculous. And so on and so on. And after you're done swiping, then what you're going to do is you're going to get a clear picture in your head of what things you've thought that are kind of on the ridiculous side and what things are not. Is it kind of like the possible and the probable? Absolutely. But it has a little bit of a more of a gaming thing into it because you're swiping. And so if you do that, it's sort of a mashup of 1 and 2, you know, possible versus probable and distraction, because you're listing the possibilities and being realistic about them. But by the same token, you're also kind of playing a game, you know? So it's like it's a mashup of 1 and 2, basically. It's anxiety Tinder. Okay. Now, the 4th and final way that I like to figure out my overthinking and determine whether or not I'm being an idiot, you know, about my anxiety is a very simple, tried and true thing. It doesn't require any paper. You don't have to have a phone. You don't have to play a game. You don't have to own a television. All you have to do is run it by another human being. Pick a person that you trust. It could be your mom. It could be your best friend. It could be your significant other. It could be no one you know personally. It could be like an internet friend, like a Twitter follower, a person you talk to on Facebook. You know, somebody that you have a relationship with, whether it's digital or real, that you don't mind them hearing your story, you know, like you're not hiding anything from that person. And preferably if it's not about them, because you can't really talk to a person about your anxieties about them with them until you've like evened it out, if you know what I mean. Like you don't talk to you don't visit your insecurities about your husband to your husband. Talk to your sister first. You know what I'm saying? And so you literally confide in that source. And when you do that, when you talk to them about your worries, you want to be very clear about what you're talking about. You come to them and you say, again, you have to have a relationship that you can do this with this person. And hopefully you have somebody like that in your life. And if you don't, there are tons of anonymous chats, by the way. And so you say, before you say it, you're like, okay, I want you to tell me, am I being stupid? Okay? Like, I want you to tell me, is this a convoluted, ridiculous idea I've got? Or am I worrying for a reason? Okay, let me know. And I'll tell you why I'm telling you to confide. Sometimes you are not your best critic, you know? Sometimes you really, like if you're in your own head to such a degree, you can't make an accurate assumption. You could distract yourself with your Netflix series, that's fine, okay? You can, and that quells the anxiety about the issue. But the issue still stands. So sure, you could play anxiety Tinder, like I said before, or you could say, is this possible, is this probable? But you, at a certain point, if you're that stuck in your own head, okay, and I should know because I've been living only up here for 43 years. So like, if you're that stuck in your own head, you can't determine whether it's possible or probable, which side to swipe to. You kind of don't know because you're all glued up in there, okay? It's just a bunch of, like at a certain point, your anxiety is just a mass of goo stuck in your brain and you can't get it out. And so how are you going to swim through that? How are you going to figure that out? You have goo up in there. So you have to go to a person who doesn't have the same goo as you okay? And say, hey man, I have this situation. I want you to specifically, I'm going to air my grievance here, and I want you to tell me, am I being a doofus or not? Do I have reason to worry or not? And if so, explain. Okay? And any caring soul will in fact do that for you. And it would be really good to get that out of your head. You know, and you'd be amazed at how little the anxiety feels after you've unburdened yourself. You know, after you've literally spoken out loud what some of your fears are, or your anxieties, or whatever it is you're overthinking about, you'd be amazed at how that level of goes down. You know, how the little buzzing man that was all a Twitter up in here suddenly kind of calms down, and you too can calm down. And who the hell just lit off fireworks outside my window? Did you guys hear that? That's one of my overthinking things. I overthink tremendously about where I live and how desperately I need to not live here anymore. Is anyone moving to another state soon? Can I be in your suitcase? Oh well, I digress. So anyway, like I was saying about other people, and I'm going to wrap this up now. The thing is that, like, sometimes not only does it feel better, like, internally, like, physiologically, but after you say it, when you say your worry out loud, even before the person has told you their answer, either you're worrying for nothing or you're not, you hear your own self say it, and sometimes you make that determination. Sometimes you go, wow, I just said that. Damn, that sounded stupid. And so then you realize that you are worrying for nothing, you know? Now, to put the cap on all of this, and to round out Self-Care Sundays, I would like very much to say that I am in no way, shape, or form a mental health professional. I talk a great deal about mental health on my channel, and specifically on Self-Care Sundays, but I am not a doctor. I am a patient, you know, but I'm also a well-studied patient, and I've spent the better part of 30 years trying to educate myself about my disorders and about disorders in general, so that I could dispense good advice to the public and also take the advice when I need it, you know. I don't in any way, shape, or form think that this is a magical panacea for all. I don't think that this is just sprinkle this video on the world and no one will worry anymore. It's just sort of something that helps me and I thought was kind of cool, you know. Another thing I think is kind of cool is that I recently discovered that I'm quite popular on TikTok. So I'm going to put my TikTok link in the description, because I can't even believe it. Right before I pressed record on here, I had made a TikTok video and saw on my homepage that I have 112 followers. Now, I know there's people who have 10,000, but I'm an old lady and I just started, so I think that's just grand. Like, I can't believe it. So if you want to subscribe to me on TikTok, go right ahead. Just bear in mind that my videos are like 99.9% Ariana Grande based and musical. So there's that. And so, yeah, if you have not already yet subscribed to Linda's World, well, I suggest you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell while you're there so you don't miss new videos such as this. My summer vlog series is kicking off. I had my first official summer vlog the other day, and it had to do with fear and worry too, by the way. And so there are more to come, including the complete redecoration of my home, starting with painting my living room. If that's something of interest to you, well then, just wait and see. It's going to be totally transformed in here by the time fall comes. Well, I guess that just about wraps it up. So I am going to put my air conditioner back on because I'm dying in here. And I'm just going to enjoy my Sunday. And I'm relatively worry-free today, so here's hoping that continues. But if it doesn't, I'm going to practice those 4 overthinking methods. And hopefully they'll work for me as well as I'm sure they will work for you. If you try one of these methods and it works for you, please drop it in the comments, because I'm sure that everyone else, including myself, would like to hear how it turned out. And until then, I will catch you next week with some more awesome videos. And it's summer, so they're going to be doubly awesome, because that's how I roll. Bye.